Yuval Shchori, welcome.
Yeah, not bad at all. Thank you very much. Good. It's still morning, right? It's still morning, almost lunchtime. We're going to discuss today, transitions in our market, and everybody talks about CNAPP. Everybody talks about like a unified platform that has to do like everything. The challenge that we see with the unification, and this is what we've been focused on for, the last 5 or more years, is that it actually on the incoming, yes, we've created unification, we've added value on the production side of what this produces, actually some stress to the security people. And what we're trying to do as we go now is actually look beyond unification and understand that it's not that we have just to unify everything, we actually have to ensure that everything that we do reduces risk. If you talk to whatever CIOs, CISOs, what keeps them up at night? The fact that they didn't manage to reduce all risk throughout their day. And this is what we're trying to do. So when we look at what changed, everything is actually times 100 these days, right? Think about how many people are involved in making those micro decisions every day. Some of them, most of them actually are not security people. Some of them are developers, some of them are DevOps engineers, and they make decisions every day. Some of them micro decisions that, well, I'm going to use this type of database, I'm going to use this type of workload that has an impact on the actual security and risk state of the organization. Where are my crown jewels? I'm an old school guy. I used to have a real data center, and I remember pulling the plug on a server and saving the day. Where is the plug these days, right? Now, I know we're in an AWS conference, but it's not the only place where your crown jewels could be. You might be using something else, maybe an on-prem data center that connects to the cloud, et cetera, et cetera. How many types of different applications, different risk level, different security levels? CI/CD became almost like a bad language for security people because it means that they don't have control on, let me just apply something like a rule in the firewall, something like this that will enable the application. It does not work like that. Today, DevOps, developers, they just submit changes through the CI/CD pipeline, and it gets committed and production. And in good organizations, you get a call from the DevOps teams on a Thursday that says, hey, we're going to go live on Monday, secure this, right? And this is the tough place we're at. Eventually, what it means that our organization risk currently is also 100x. Now, the challenge is that we need to evolve to a place where we are actionable, where we as a vendor, where we as a product company provide actionable insights to our customers. And this is what this session is all about. When we look at how does generally a cloud infrastructure or a cloud environment looks like, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see some network security infrastructure. You're going to see whatever new cussword that your developers, DevOps engineers now use. Might be EC2 machines, might be containers, might be Lambdas, what have you. We have to remember that on top, what is the care for from a CIO and CISO perspective is the app. They do not care for how many EC2 machines or Lambda functions. What they care for is that the storefront is going to be up and running. And again, everything that you see on the top part is going through CI/CD pipeline. Even the network security infrastructure is today being built as part of the IAC changes and through templates, what have you. And then changes are also being pushed very dynamically. So why doesn't unification work in such an environment? The reason is that we're still doing a lot of manual configurations. Again, sometimes by people that are not security people or not security oriented. They're not bad people. And yes, I know I'm going to say this to security people. Sometimes they say, well, developers are just bad. No, they're not. They're just unaware. This leads to a lot of misconfiguration, a lot of excessive permissions configured on our cloud environments. Growing numbers of alerts. Can you deal with, it doesn't matter how many security people you have, can you deal with 10,000 critical and high alerts a day? It doesn't matter how many people you have, you can't. Who has, I always ask this question, who has enough SecOps engineers in their organization? Surprisingly, never I see a hands up. We eventually need to understand that what this would lead to is unattended security issues, unattended security risk, because in 10,000 alerts, we can take care of 100 issues. We have tons of things that are really critical and not attended. We talked about the constant development cycles. Again, because there is nothing in the development cycle that really stops engineers, development engineers, from solving security issues as they go, not yet. We still see that someone just decided to integrate a new library they got from GitHub. It contains a vulnerability. They're not aware. It's part of the production code. Someone forgot a piece of secret inside of their code. It was not sanitized as it went into production, right? And also, as it went into production means that they're writing code for like 4 months, 3 months, a month, and only when they're ready, we're going to push it into kind of a state of, let's sanitize it. Is this the right way? Probably we want to solve it up ahead in the game and tell it to them as they go. As an old school security person, I can tell you this. Lambda, for example, serverless functions, for me it's black magic. I do not always understand how I'm an old school. You install a 3U server or a 1U server with an operating system, with an application piece on it, and then you run your code. What do you mean you're just running a piece of untethered code in the cloud? Now think about what other security people go through as they learn the new technologies. It's complex. And it doesn't have the visibility that you might have in their traditional on-prem systems, leading exactly to those situations where they really do not attend to everything that they need to as they transition to a cloud environment. Now, the number one thing that we decided to go from a strategic perspective is employ as much as possible AI as we empower our CNAPP. And the reason we want to make sure that we're using an AI is that when you look at the plethora of things that we have, how many tools that we have, how many insights that we have, how do we take care of that without going completely crazy? This is exactly where AI runs into place and saves the day. And what we're doing, we're actually taking everything that we have, adding contextual inputs, for example, topology. The importance of topology, understanding if a workload is accessible to the internet because it's your organizational cash cow, it's your storefront, or it's a lab machine, is critical to decide if this is a real risk or not. Should I attend to it at 2 a.m. or not? And the fact that you could actually balance this, right, and understand what to attend to first is critical. Eventually, we look at the entire attack surface, we build those specific attack paths, and we perform risk calculation from an asset perspective. So if you have a workload that is a member of multiple risky attack paths, this asset has a critical risk assigned to it. But that's not all. Again, remember the storefront versus the lab device or the lab workload? Now comes business input. A business priority is added as a contextual piece of information into the calculation. So again, an external system, your cash cow, which is number one in terms of business priority, you want to make sure that it is also getting a higher level of risk if it has an issue. So just a little bit of a double click into how do we build a risk score. So the attack surface, think of it like your organizational cloud attack surface is actually an aggregated calculation of all the attack paths that your different workloads participate in, right? Each attack path is assigned a risk score. Is this, is it something that could lead to information leakage? Is it something that could lead to, your complete system taken down, et cetera, or not? And eventually, every asset, based on the contextual information we talked about, is now given a risk score. So when I have an issue or 100 issues on a specific workload, I can elevate the risk based on everything that we talked about. And the last thing that we're using AI for, which is critical, let's say that I managed to reduce 10,000 alerts to 50, to 100, something that is bearable. But wouldn't you want to know what are the different manners or ways that you could remediate those security risks, and then sort them by what we refer to as minimal effective dose. Minimal effective dose is either the shortest time to remediation performed by a person. Think, reinstalling a complete workload versus just, updating a line in the, a line in your configuration file. And also the fact that it might be that by solving one issue, you're going to have an impact on 200 different assets. And this is the work of the AI engine that actually understands everything inside your environment and calculate those effective doses, which are minimal, requires the least amount of human intervention. So by doing so, we're actually transitioning from just achieving security compliance. This is where CNAPP started. When DEM214, the company that Checkpoint acquired years ago, was erected, actually, this is what it focused on. It focused on just compliance. Tell me if I'm compliant. Today, you, other customers, AWS as an organization and as a cloud provider, they look into, okay, it's not enough. We need to make sure that we completely reduce the attack surface because, again, this is what keeps the people, the customers, like yourselves, up at night. Now, from a resolution perspective, we're trying to use as much as contextual AI possible in order to be very focused on risk. Right? Everything is focused on risk and the effort it would take in order to remediate those risks. So if you remember this diagram, we're actually adding two new capabilities, which are a big thing. First is ERM, effective risk management, then cloud infrastructure. And I thought I'm going to go through it smoothly. Cloud infrastructure entitlement management. KIM or SIEM or CM, doesn't matter. We'll talk about this in a second. Last but not least is agentless workload posture. We're going to talk about this in the next coming slides. Everything that you see here is using AI in order to make sure that you maximize the capabilities of Checkpoint as a company, and you do not rely on the human factor within your organization. So, cream of the crop, ERM. What ERM is actually doing is what we discussed earlier, reducing alert fatigue, making sure that you do not have a resource strain, which is a major thing, and making sure that risks are attended to. And the way that we do it, and we actually redo our entire product, the way that we do it is by focusing on risk and not criticality of events. And as I explained earlier, criticality, let's say that you have a log4j vulnerability. How many times did you hear log4j in the last, several months, but I'm going to repeat it. You have a log4j vulnerability, again, in your storefront versus your lab environment. It's not the same risk, right? You want to make sure, for example, it might look blurry to you. It's like you have 10 perimeter assets that are on the verge of the internet, accessible from the internet, with high-risk issues that you want to attend to, right? Everything, of course, clickable. Eventually, you want to understand, instead of 10,000 alerts, you want to understand like the 100 critical risk issues, and then remediate as fast as possible. Now, one of the challenges that we see is from a permission perspective, right? Who had the conversation with the DevOps or the developer that went around the following: don't change the permissions. It works like that. If you're going to change one thing, it's going to break. Right? Now, what does the SecOps, they want job security. They do not want to take the system down. Right? So they leave it as is. Now, what Kim does, and it actually boils up to ERM, it feeds information into ERM as well. What Kim does is model your configured permission set. This is what the developers and the DevOps engineers decided that this application needs or this workload needs, right? And then models the actual usage of how is it being used, how the permissions are actually being used. And it provides you the delta and says, listen, actually, you could reduce this. You could take Todd, Rick, and Pamela and move them into a single role instead of giving them specific user permissions. And then all you have to do, instead of managing 3 people or 300 people, depending on your organizational size, you're just changing one role in order to have the permission change in effect, right? Talking about zero trust, this is how you get to zero trust much faster than just manually reviewing what you have. One of the challenges that we see, especially on EC2 machines, but not just, or on virtual machines in general, is lack of visibility. Because when you talk to customers about what are they doing, when we talk to customers about what are they doing from a deep visibility into virtual machines, we get 2 questions. The first is, well, we don't. We have CSPM, so we look at the meta configuration at the AWS configuration, and we're kind of good with that. Or it took us 2 years to deploy agents to every VM, and it gives us heartaches and heartburns, and actually the business unit is now pissed because they are, they have to pay for the compute power of the agent itself. What we decided to do is to take a completely agentless path with AWP, agentless workload posture. What we're doing is we're actually taking a snapshot of the virtual machine, scanning it offline, so you don't need to install anything on it. We actually mount it almost as a volume, right? As if it's just a hard drive that we need to scan into. This way, no impact on runtime, no impact on performance, and no charging of the business unit, because you don't need to charge back. You actually could just charge it to the security team itself. So you get the same level of visibility as if you have an agent running. What vulnerabilities do I have? In the future, what malware do I have? Do I have secrets leaked in the code, et cetera, but without the complexity and the OpEx requirements of an agent. Last but not least, as part of this, if you remember, we talked about all those micro decisions, and I said, like, the security the developer team are not a team of bad people. They're not aware, right? Now, with the acquisition of Spectral that we acquired around 6 months ago, or a little bit 10 less from that, actually, we took a product that is focused on developers and empowers developers from a security perspective. What are we trying to solve? We're trying to solve the phone call on a Thursday that I talked about that says we're ready to go live, go secure it. And then you have, as a security operations team, to secure it from 0 to 60 in, over the weekend, right? What we're actually saying is, no, if you have vulnerable code, I want the developers to know about this as they build their system. And to tell them, hey, just so you know, you can actually upgrade to the latest revision of those, GitHub repositories or wherever they took their piece of code, their third-party library from, and upgrade it so there are no vulnerabilities. Same with malware. Same with secrets that are being leaked inside of the code. So when you get the call, it's not 0 to 60. It's going to be 55 to 60. It's not going to be 0 to 60. This is exactly what we're trying to solve, and this is why we're bringing this capability as part of our CNAPP solution. So, unattended misconfiguration and security risk, we solved it with ERMs, right? It's not all misconfigurations, it's just the one that matter, right? And now we can focus everybody to reconfigure those things that are really critical. Excessive permissions, we talked about Kim, right? the fact that you could actually get to zero trust as fast as possible from a workload permission set, not just from a user permission set. Secret leakage, IAC misconfiguration, CI/CD sanity from a security perspective, all through Spectral, right? Focus on the developers. Remember one thing, the shift left term is not a technology term. It is actually an organizational shift that we, as security people, we have to respond to. And I truly believe that the recepting side of the developers and DevOps would be happy to, and we see it from interest coming from customers, would be happy to consume this as early as possible. Lack into visibility, what's going on in the virtual machines. We talk about this when I mentioned agent workload posture. So what you're getting from AI within your CNAPP system, you're going to view everything from a risk point of view and not from an asset alert criticality perspective. See exactly what's happening within your workloads, establish zero trust models fast, and remediate quickly, which is truly, truly essential to resolving today's problems when we talk about alert fatigue, resource strain, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yuval. Thanks, everybody.